Hi guys, just give me a second, making sure it's all okay and that YouTube's not yelling at me about anything. Oh, that needs to be changed to live chat. Fuck. Of course it is. Need new glasses, I'm seeing double. You are indeed. Now, this is one thing I was going to ask Shrafe. Would you rather me have my camera in the upper right, or would you rather me put it over my camera in the upper left? What? The bloody other can't handle told me. Not that bastard over there. Him. That one. On the far fucking side. Him on the next screen. That fucker. See, his door's closed, my door's open. So would you rather it be where it is, or would you rather it be over that one to be less confusing? What would you prefer? Saying to cover it up. You'd rather it be over the other one, yeah? So if I put it over there like that, you'll still see a bit of it because the camera at that time was bigger, using a bigger format for the thing, but you won't see the bulk of it basically. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay. Right, okay. Leave that then. So this is the first episode then of Game Talk. If that's how you want to put it, that's completely fine. Basically, this is going to be muted. It's just background visual. This is my playthrough of Alien Isolation, which I think is a great game, one of the best horror games out there. And this is actually a game that's made by CA. And they normally obviously focus on strategy games, but this game was actually amazing. And there is rumours they might do a second one. I don't know, but they might. But that can just play through in the background, or we can just discuss anything and everything gaming related, basically. I forgot where we were beforehand, because obviously I weren't really doing much on Monster Hunter World, and it was just kind of like confusing the fuck out of me, like, what the hell am I doing here? So I'd rather do something I think like this, where we can just chat, and then for next week I can probably like look up some topics, so we've got some things we can kind of talk through. And this time, because I've only got like, 2 or so hours left, we can just trial it for this one and just see how the first episode goes. And then from there, just do this on Wednesdays. And just have a talk about general gaming, anything gaming related. Like, the thing I've been looking at lately has been the new World of Warcraft Thunderstorm. I'm not a fan of Battle Royales myself, personally, but I like how they put their take on it into an MMO. It's a very good idea. They made a good choice on it, and they made it simple to play with no add-ons. So it's like, if they can make a mode where there's no add-ons available in the game at all, they can do that with the rest of their game. Just get rid of add-ons, clean house. Now, there are some people who said they want add-ons that are more cosmetic, like bag-on and stuff like that. That's okay, it's fair enough. I don't understand. I understand the idea of add-ons that are more cosmetic and convenience, but in that case, Blizzard can put them into the game. Blizzard can do that. That's their job. Let them put it into the game. It shouldn't be the responsibility of modders to put that in. And then modders have also done some bad things in the past. They can cause your game to crash. They're out of date whenever Blizzard patch their game. So then the modders have got to then update the add-ons so you can download the new update. And then, like, weak auras at one point had a weak aura that could steal all your characters' gold. So I don't like add-ons in games at all. I don't think they're a thing that should be in the game, especially not in a AAA title that they shouldn't even have access to the game. And then you've got this elitism that's being bred now, where actually what I'll do is I'll make my chat here bigger as well, so I can see you guys more easily. You make the they've made the game wholly dependent upon these bloody add-ons, incredibly so. And I think that was a bad way to go, because like in vanilla, there were some add-ons, but there weren't many. It weren't that prevalent. And there weren't even that many in Burning Crusade. Add-ons started to really come around, as you mentioned earlier on, like gear score in Wrath of the Lich King. And that were a bad addition to the game. Because that's where the elitism started to kick in. Like, oh, you haven't got gear score. We don't want you, you're not a good player. What, because of my gear score? Gear score is a determination of skill now, is it? The in-game shop makes them more money than monthly subs. Probably does. Probably does. Especially the price of some of the things on the monthly the store. Will not surprise me at all. But it's just, I don't know. Just they made some bad calls along the way. Now, I did hear what somebody said at one point. Apparently, when there was the longest patch ever, I think it was the last patch of Cataclysm to the first patch of Wood, and I think it lasted something like 11 months, which was insane. But it was in the process of when Activision was acquiring Blizzard. And I think that's when it started to go down the shitter. Because obviously Activision, although their games being mainly Call of Duty are quite simple to play, Call of Duty has a very elitist, toxic community. And I think some of that community boiled over into World of Warcraft. Although the game was still complex as fuck to play, they started to add on difficulty ceilings. Heroic, then Mythic later on. Then you got Heroic dungeons, then you got Mythic Plus dungeons that were fucking timed with limited fucking keys. And I think some of that elitism spilt over from Activision acquiring Blizzard. And you've got the elitist jerks from Call of Duty having a bit of influence in World of Warcraft. You had that sort of mentality that had been pulled in there. Because until that happened, it wasn't as prevalent. So you could argue one of the worst things that happened to Blizzard and happened to World of Warcraft was being acquired by Activision and Bobby Kotick. I would like to see what would have happened to World of Warcraft if it had been left in the hands of the original team and they'd not been acquired by Activision. Then there was the staff that acted like frat boys, harassing their female employees, etc. Same guy spent all day just playing COD and getting drunk. Yes. So it seemed to have some aspect in the workplace as well. There were people apparently having sex at work on tables and stuff. And it's in a professional work environment? Fucking hell. These days you glance at something wrong where you get fucking done for something. But then again, that's obviously America for you. I think the Plunderstorm's a good idea, and it's shown now that they've got a way where they can do PvP on a separate server by itself and just do PvP that way. And then if they want to put a ranking into it or something like that, or a leaderboard, they can do. And they can use that same methodology for 7 abilities and have them just as PvP based abilities to use against other players and stuff for battlegrounds, rated battlegrounds and arenas. And then none of those abilities translate over into the PvE side of the game. And then when it comes to balancing, the devs can make overpowered abilities for your classes and they haven't got to nerf them. They can keep them as they are. Same with the raids themselves and the dungeons. Bring them out at a difficulty level, rather than a poor dev having to go back and nerf the fucking bosses down in health and damage and whatever. Instead of having to do that, the boss stays the same it is the first day it comes out. It never has to get nerfed. And then them devs that waste time nerfing bosses can then move on to other things. If they haven't got to nerf abilities, if they haven't got to nerf bosses, all the developers' time they spend nerfing things, they can make more content for the game. So rather than giving us just one raider tier, give us 2. Or as I said, give us 3. Give us a small, a medium and a large. If they can't manage 3, then give us a medium-sized raid and a big raid. But give us some more content to do. Then you haven't got the problem that I had when I was an AQ40, where I had 4 days out of 7 a week with nothing to do. We'd done our raids in the first 3 days, and then I had nothing to do for the remaining 4. And I was still paying my monthly sub, and for 16 days out of the month, I was basically paying for pretty much nothing, apart from helping the odd guildie in a dungeon. That was it. That was basically it. And I think if you've got more raids to go to, you're then overwhelmed with choice. But that's a good thing. You should have a lot of choice in a massive multiplayer game. There shouldn't be any reason to, just have like, oh, here's one raid. Why? Why one? When we translated from Vanilla to Burning Crusade, I remember some people left because they didn't like the idea of not having 40-man raids, which is fair enough. I enjoyed 40-man raids. I thought it was great having an entire guild there, all running at a boss and fucking spells launching, arrows flying, everyone charging into combat. It was great. It was fantastic. That's how an MMO should be, in my opinion. They should be big and impressive raids. But when it went on to Burning Crusade, some left because of the raid side reduction, even though the player base went up rather than down. So I don't know why Blizzard made that change. That was a bit strange, to be completely honest. But I think they'd set a goal somewhere of what they wanted. So they thought 25 and 10 man would be better. And then they went 25 man, 10 man, 25 man and 10 man heroic in Wrath of the Lich King. And it's like, why did the difficulty suddenly come into the play? Why? Why is there difficulty? And it's like, if you want to put in a cool extra boss like Algalon the Observer, just put him in there. Just make it so you can't get to that boss's room until after you've killed the last boss. So you've got to kill all the bosses, optional ones included, and then you've got to kill the last boss, which was in that one, it was one of the old gods, and then it unlocks Algalon the Observer as like a extra boss after the last boss. Just do it like that instead. It's like a reward for killing all the bosses. And you get some more fat loot. Small raid size was more manageable, easy to balance, but when there is half of the people you need to consider reducing difficulty. I mean, that's another thing, but then also, you've got the more adjustments as well makes it harder for them, rather than having just it targeted at 40 people. But also, you tailor your abilities to work around 40 people as well, rather than having to have a 25-man raid and a 10-man raid. I'm like, well, this ability is quite good at 25-man, but it's overpowered at 10-man. They made more work for themselves for no reason. It didn't make any sense. It was really weird. It's like when you had just one raid size, your job was so much... Well, technically they had 2 raid sizes, because they had 40-man and 20-man. But the 20-man raids were only 20-man. The 40-man raids were only 40-man. There wasn't a 20-man option in there. It weren't a nightmare to run. You could get it in, and as I said, you could have 20 good players and you could carry 20 bad ones. Because the bosses weren't that hard, they weren't supposed to be. The game was supposed to be fun and inclusive. The game wasn't supposed to be overwhelmingly difficult. It wasn't supposed to be just something where 2% of the player base could do it. That's incredibly stupid. I don't know why they'd even think that was a good idea. I really don't. Not for an MMO. For some other games, maybe. But not for an MMO. Also as well, they got rid of some like really cool like legendary quest lines. And when they made legendaries and then they got outdated. I think I was mentioning it earlier and I got sidetracked on something else. But when I went into Burning Crusade, the worst part for me was I had tier 2 enchanted legs. So I had Wrath legs, which I got from Ragnaros. I got my tier 2 legs and I went and did a level 61 quest. And this 61 quest gave me green legs that were better than my tier 2 legs. And they weren't a bit better, they were a lot better. Significant increase to armour, stamina, strength. And then I think it gave me like one affix on it, one like special stat. And I was like, what? And it was so demoralising to have a quest item that was green, to have to go from a level 60 purple to a 61 green that was better than boss I got from like a raid boss in vanilla. I think that's something they got wrong almost from the start, because they had the same problem with like tier 1 and tier 2. But when you went to a quest in green, and it's like, oh god, why? And nowadays it's even worse, because it's when they released, say, the first raid of a tier, the second raid, when you're questing through that new zone, those new quests now give you better loot than the raid from the tier you've just done. And that's in the same expansion. At least mine was a different expansion. Gaming in a nutshell, especially on Modern WoW, you can get better stuff outside of raids. I don't mind getting better stuff outside of raids, because there are things like world bosses. They're going to bring this new thing in called Delves in the War Within. But don't make the other stuff obsolete. Make it so it's still relevant and can still matter. So the stats aren't that much different that they're then not worth having. I don't know why it's something like that they can't do. I ain't got a clue. I think that'd be a better option. It's just, it seems... I don't know. It seems like a weird way of doing things. And they intentionally outdate their own content. They outdate the raids and they outdate the gear. And it's like, alright, you've done this raid, you've got this gear, we don't want you to do this raid anymore, so this gear's no longer good for you. And you don't need to do these bosses because you can get better gear from the new raid. Why? Why is that a thing? I used to find it really weird when I started leveling my alts. I was leveling my alts, and this were even bad in Wrath of Lich King. So I started leveling my paladin. Obviously back then you had to start at level fucking 1. So you're leveling through vanilla, and then you're jumping into Burning Crusade. You're leveling through Burning Crusade, and you're then going into Wrath of Lich King. I didn't see a player, apart from at the very starting area, and until I took the ship from Stormwind to Wrath of Lich King. Stormwind was the only city that had players in it, because that's where the harbour was. I went to Ironforge, because I had a dwarf paladin. There was no one there. Ironforge used to be the primary city. It was fucking void. There was no one there. And it used to be called Lagforge. It was that bad you'd run in if you had a bad internet connection. You'd lag like fuck. You had to look down at the ground to get to the bank or the auction house to try and avoid the lag. It was terrible. But it showed how many people were playing the game. That was the fun side of it. But when you're going through all these zones and there weren't a soul in sight, it's like, what's happened to this game? So vanilla were void, Burning Crusade were void, and then you're coming back into vanilla to then go to obviously Northrend. And it's only then that you started seeing people in Stormwind, because Stormwind was still irrelevant. And then you'd go across the boat and everyone was in Northrend. All the areas were packed. But it's like they'd migrated the entire player base. Now people will go and do your new content anyway. They'll go and do the new raids and the new stuff, but don't make it so they then can't do the old stuff that's not worth doing. Because by the time you got to max level in Wrath of Lich King, you could solo classic bosses by yourself. I think you could solo some probably at the end of Burning Crusade. But it really feels obsolete. No point of doing any of it unless you want the mount of Transmog. You get better rated gear from Mythic Plus anyway. And that's another thing as well. And it's like, I don't mind dungeons giving gear. I don't. Dungeons probably should have like their own epic sets, like a dungeon set. But should it be better than raiding gear? Absolutely not. The raids are far harder to both, one, do the bosses, and two, put the bosses together, and the raids together. You've got to get, if you're doing mythic raiding, we'll relate it to current raids, you've got to get 15 more people than you've got to get for a group for a mythic plus. The only difference between a mythic plus and the raiding, other than the extreme level difficulty, that makes mythic plus slightly hard in its own way, is the timer. If that timer was gone, and you can take as much time as you want to the dungeon, dungeons are a joke. An absolute joke. You need 1 tank, 1 healer, 3 DPS. Same as you've always needed. For a mythic raid, your comp can be extremely important. And this is where I want to make a good point on why 40-man raids are better than 20-man raids. Do you know, Shrafe, how many classes are in the game right now in World of Warcraft? Not specs, but classes. Because I know they added one in Dragonflight. So this is the other point. Don't get me wrong, MMOs every now and then might need to add in a new class. I'm not saying you've got to continually add them in throughout the entire life of the game, because it'll get to the point where you've just got too many classes. I think having a good 8 to maybe 16 classes is plenty. I don't think you really need to go as high as 20. And 13 with a new expansion. So they're nearing towards 16 now, right? But when you've only got a 20-man mythic raid, you can barely fit in one of each class. And some classes are that good, you need to take 2 of them. If you've got a 40-man raid, you can easily take multiples of every single class. So then every person's class is valuable. Where you've got a meta now that some classes aren't taken at all in mythic raids, and some classes aren't even considered viable for mythic plus. That shouldn't be a thing. Now dungeons are much smaller. You can only take in 5 classes, but it shouldn't be where they completely make your class obsolete. That shouldn't be a thing. That's ridiculous. Because that means some of their classes now are being made obsolete by Blizzard's tuning, I suppose, or having the mechanics of Mythic Plus. Some classes won't even get invited to a Mythic Plus. So unless you put up your own key and try and get people in, but people might not join you because of the class that you are. That's almost like racist, but in a computer game. But it basically being classist. I feel the pain as demo Warlock main was horrible at start on every expansion. Demonology was, yes. But strongest class in the game in vanilla was Warlock. If you were playing Destruction or Affliction, God tier. Those in vanilla were the strongest class. Anyone would tell you. I would hate fighting Warlocks as a fucking warrior. A good Warlock anyway. Because I was good in PvP. But Warlocks were fucking strong. And when you're running round as well, and the Warlocks put like fucking 8 dots on you, and your health bar is just plummeting every couple of seconds because of a tick. Oh my god, it was a nightmare. Played Shadow Priest in Classic and Burning Crusade. Now, see, I can understand you trying Shadow Priest out in Burning Crusade, because at least at that point, they actually got a tier set. Same as all the druid specs, same as all the other off specs of all the other classes. But they didn't have a tier set in vanilla. Because if I'm not mistaken, the tier set catered towards Holy. If only I knew how shy they were. There was one cool thing in, I think it was in Legion. I didn't play Legion, but I remember seeing a video about it. There was a certain scene you could only see if you were a Shadow Priest in one of the cities. Only Shadow Priest could see it. In TBC, Shadow Priest was really good. The Man of Generation it gave, the party was amazing. Oh yeah, all the classes came out of the element in Burning Crusade. That's one thing they did right. All the classes and all the classes had one, but all the specs should have their own tier set. All of the specs in the game should be viable. None of them should be outdated. They should all be viable. I don't believe in this like, oh, this spec's better than that spec bollocks. No. All the specs should work. All of them. If you've got one spec that's being completely alienated, then the developers need to take that spec away, rework it, and make it so it stays relevant. All of them should be relevant all the time. There should be no excuse on that. That's poor game design. It is. It's just poor game design on that part. You shouldn't make a class in your game that has temporary viability or viability only in certain aspects of the game. It's stupid. It's really, really stupid. I know in some cases that it wasn't in vanilla. It was in it was even after like Lich King. There were some cases where some bosses were more melee orientated because they were heavy on movement, and because spellcasters generally have to stay stood still to cast their spells, they were better on the more static bosses who just stayed where they were or didn't have to be moved. But bosses that had to be moved a lot weren't very good for your range classes. So in some cases you'd have a favouritism towards more range than melee. But most people who were in the raid would generally have one of both characters. They'd have a melee and a range. So it's like, oh, this boss is easier with this. They'll all just log on their range characters and do those particular bosses with the range characters. But if there's any boss, any loot on that boss for the melee characters, then very few of the melee guys can get that loot. So that was a problem. But that was a rarer problem. But it was still a problem every now and then you'd come across. There's no one for fixing something that isn't broken. Yeah, it's kind of weird that way. And then you've got like devs like Dead by Daylight where they don't fix anything. Like one of the running memes was in Dead by Daylight was somewhere there's a bug in this game, or a game in this bug, sorry. And that was an accurate sentiment. I had parts where I'd fallen through the map. I was under the map, so I couldn't leave the match, and the killer couldn't kill me. So the only thing I had was for the killer to leave. It was really stupid with things like that. And then to this day, they've still got things in there like collision between survivors. I don't know why. Because all the collision does is create a griefing mechanic. If players can phase through other players, if they're blocking a window or blocking a pallet or blocking a door, you can just run straight through them. If the killer's hot on your ass, the killer then has to hit that survivor who's doing the body blocking. Whether it be intentional or unintentional, they take the hit instead. That's how it should be. So then they either get hit for being a prick, or hit for not being aware of what's going on around them and being stood in the way. You shouldn't be punished for somebody else's incompetence or the fact that they're an asshole. I don't understand why they have that in there, I really don't. It offers no value to the game. And if they're saying, oh, it's for realism because you can't phase through someone in real life, you're playing a game that's based in a fantasy realm by a god that's been pulling in iconic killers and survivors from other franchises into this nightmare realm. There is no realism in the game, so you shouldn't need collision on it. You used to have something similar on Diablo 2, where you could get body blocked by other players' characters, and they used to sometimes hold your character hostage on certain areas in Kurast in Act 3, and they'd charge you money to let you out because it wouldn't move. I'd be like, you're kidding me, right? Unless you just leave and just start like your own server sort of thing, another server. It was so annoying. And again, that was another game. Doesn't need collision between the players. It's an ARPG. Let them walk through each other. That's the equivalent of not letting my minions walk through me as a necromancer. It'd make the class unplayable. I don't know where some of these developers sometimes get their ideas and are like, oh yeah, we'll put this into the game. Why? I'd want an answer to that. Why would we need that in the game? Why would that make the game better? Answer the why question. If you can answer that why with a question mark, with a good answer, fine. If you can't answer the why with a good answer, there's no reason for it to be in the game whatsoever. I think it's just one of those really, really odd takes on things. I mean, one of the genres that generally does get it right, unless you go multiplayer like Dead by Daylight and that new one that's come out, that Extraction Level 0 thing. Horror games generally get it right. Alien Isolation, Outlast, Outlast 2, Amnesia the Dark Descent, Amnesia the Bunker. Horror games are very, very good. They're scary, but they're very, very good. You generally have a good story. Generally fairly simple mechanics to play with. The only thing I would remove on this game really would be the combat, in all honesty. But I'd make it so you didn't really need the guns at all. You just need the tools to like open the doors and stuff in the vents. But you can hide from everything. You can hide from the alien, you can hide from the androids, and you can hide from the hostile humans in the area. And basically make it like a pure survival horror where you hide from your enemies. You run or hide. Obviously you couldn't outrun the alien, but you can hide from the alien. You can outrun the androids, but you can't really hide from the androids. Because if you run and then you hide under a gurney, they come and kick you to death. It's like they instantly know where you are. So I'm not sure if that's a bug in the game, but that's something they probably should have changed. But that is the only thing I would change in this game, realistically. Apart from that, the game was great. I had no problem with the game. It played well, it didn't crash, graphics were good, atmosphere was amazing, soundtrack was spot on. And then you've got the terrifying thought of the fucking alien being anywhere and everywhere after you first encounter it. Once you first encounter that alien, all bets are off. That fucker can show up almost anywhere until you blow it off the ship. And the odd occasion in like the Marshalls area. It can't show up there. You're doing that. But it's really, and I think having unscripted horror games, so script it to a point, but then once the creature or creatures have shown themselves, make it so they can show up anywhere at any time almost. Add in that random element, that RNG element, so players are kept guessing. It's scarier. They don't know when or if it's going to show up, because you might be okay for a period of time. It might not come and bother you. It might be bothering some other NPCs somewhere else in the game. And it might only get drawn to you if you make too much noise. Something like that. I think that is a really good way of doing horror games. Like Outlast, don't get me wrong, Outlast is a brilliant horror game, I love it. But Outlast is scripted with its encounters. Once you've played through the game, unless you forget like I did when I played it back through on YouTube, but I've got shit memory, you generally know when the encounters are going to occur. So then, once you've played through it once, playing through it again, there's almost no scare factor. Because you then know what's going to happen and when. I think having that randomness in there keeps it fresh every time. I don't know when this thing's going to pop up, how long it's going to be on the fucking floor for, you know, where I'm going to hide if it pops up at a wrong situation, and I'm going to be like, fuck, where do I hide? Because that's what you've got to do, you've got to try and fucking hide. If it sees you, you're boned. Unless you've got, obviously, your flame or a Molotov to fight it off with. Oh. But, with me, I've loved games since I was 5. Since I was 5. First consoles we got, I can't remember exactly which one it were. We had the Amiga and we had the Atari. I can't remember if we had the Commodore. And I had an original Game Boy, but that was later on. We got PlayStation 1. We had, I bought my first Xbox myself. We got PlayStation 2. Never got any PlayStations after that. I think more of the games that me and my brother liked were both on the Xbox exclusives. Like I liked the Halo, Fable, Gears of War. They were all on the Xbox. There's no reason for me to keep getting PlayStations. Because the PlayStation games I like the most were Final Fantasy ones. In particular, 7, 8 and 10. And then Zodiac Age later on when that came out. But they've now been ported to the PC. Luckily the 10 port plays really well, as does the 7. The 8 one seems okay, but the Zodiac Age port is crap. It's absolutely wank. You can tell they designed it for a console, because it doesn't play well at all on PC. The port is extremely poor. And I think that's what sometimes happens with some games. When they port a game over to PC, it doesn't port over well. There's no one to Q&A and check it and make sure it's a good port. Where when they port a game from PC to console, the console Q&A team checks the game out and makes sure it's working okay before they allow it to be ported to the console. So they've got to like iron out more of the rough edges. First time gaming was when I was pretty young, saw my cousin play this very child-friendly game called Carmageddon. Been into games since. Carmageddon. Can't say I've heard of that one. Let's have a look at Carmageddon. And here it brings up a movie. Oh my god. Oh, it looks like one of those old fucking retro racing type games. Oh, it's not K with a, it's not with a K, it's with a C. Look at that fucker's face. Well, you spelled karma right, to be fair, because that's how you'd spell karma. You could run other people. Yeah, so it's like a very early version, essentially like Grand Theft Auto-ish. Do you want food? Give me a second. Just going to go and feed the feline. I will briefly put on gameplay sound. Come on. Feed the Palico, yes. I've got 2 of them. I've just got to let her out of the bathroom again in a second because she has this. Oh, did I make the sound of that?
That could just be some dickhead with an axe.
But I have loved games for a long, long time, more than I can recount, and obviously, back when I wanted to do gaming for a living, time to unmute the video. Well, yeah, I forgot to mute the video, didn't I? Like a dumbass. Again, you always got teething troubles in your first time doing something. Never done anything like this before. Different. I've wanted to do some form of gaming full time as a job long before YouTube and Twitch even existed. Long before the name content creator was even a thing. Because when I told my dad I wanted to do my job full time, he laughed at me. He didn't laugh in like a nasty way. It was like that's not a thing, son. And back then he was right, it wasn't a thing. It became a thing later on. I think YouTube came out in what, 2005? 2004? Oh, pardon me. I think it was around about that time, wasn't it? Let's have a look. th of February. He started on Valentine's Day? He started on Valentine's Day 2005. Oh my god. Hi Matrix. We're doing a new thing, brother. If you want to join me, you can do. We can talk things up. In fact, actually, I should have just joined Discord, shouldn't I? As well. We're doing a different episode today. We're going to be doing it every Wednesday, called Game Talk. Just talking about games together. Having a chat about games, old and new. Anything that you enjoy, that frustrates you, that you know, whatever. We've been talking about World of Warcraft and new Plunderstorm. Now you've only got 7 abilities on the new Battle Royale thing. And I hope they bring 7 abilities to the rest of World of Warcraft. Because how those abilities work is, they've all got a very small cooldown. So you're basically always hitting your abilities. You've always got something to do. I'm not home, I'm at my dad's place. No problem, buddy. I went off of Once in the World and I was kind of bored. Because I was only playing it to like help you out, get you level up. I'd like to do content like Critical Role videos of TTRPGs, but would have to get everyone on board with that one. And everything should be spoken English so the audience can understand. I mean, Indian. The funny thing is, the audience having it as English is probably a good thing, but not the end of all. Because apparently, something like only less than 10% of the planet speaks English. I find that a bit hard to believe, because you've got all of England and Ireland. You've got most of Europe speaks English as a dual language. They're taught it as part of their education system. You've got all of Canada, all of America, all of Australia, and all of India. Everyone forgets India's got over 1 billion people, and they speak English as their primary language. Indian, as people refer to it, is their second language. Their first language is English, because they were part of the English nations that were conquered by the British Empire. They speak English first. So you've got all these countries that speak English, and like India, for example, is massive. That's like 1/9 of the human population by itself, that one country. Ugh. But it's hard to believe that English is my third language, or to speak better English than my native. And not being funny, Shrafe, as well, if that is true and that's your third language, you also type it better than most English people. And I'm not talking about mistakes from like autocorrect, because you do get those, but you type it better than a lot of English people. I used to do memos for like, we had like our own like little company we set up in college, and it was called Cool Logic, but with a K. And I was doing the memos and the assistant stuff. We switched around some of the roles, see what people wanted to be. And some of the things that came to me, I was like, what language is this in? And like, I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, and I'd sent him it back, and I'd circled every spelling mistake and grammar mistake in red. Bear in mind, I've got to make sure that shit's correct, 'cause I'm a secretary. You're supposed to be like, you know, spell checking it, proof checking it, all that stuff. And I'm really good at English with like grammar, literature, that sort of stuff. And I was like, that's just one page and you've got like 50 mistakes. I'm like, you've sent me a 3-page document. I'm like, take it back and fix it. I'm like, you're supposed to be running a company. I'm like, I won't let you run my toilet. Never mind a company. I'm like, take it back and fix it. It was fucking atrocious. And that's somebody supposedly born and bred in England. The language, the country that spawned the fucking language. But back on we get, the Skype headset. The fucking Skype headset. Back in the day. Then again, the computers on the island were all fucking old. But the my dream of gaming dates back a long time. I've had my dream longer than some of the content creators now have been alive. Because if I wanted to be do gaming for a living when I was 5, I'm 38. That means I've had my dream for 33 years, and I'm still yet to realise it. Still yet to be able to live my dream. There's others that are living my dream that are far younger, and probably didn't even have that as a dream when they were 5. But me, I knew what I wanted to do from when I was 5. Because I remember when... did you ever get given a thing at school? I think it was primary school, when you were leaving primary school. A teacher went round to give you a piece of paper and said, write down your name and write down what you'd want to do for your dream job and then your primary second job, if you couldn't get your dream job. and we wrote our names on it, and then I wrote down my dream job, and I put down gamer, and then below that I put down like a HTML code or something like that, because I was tampering around with things like Dreamweaver and stuff like that, and odd bits of like another program that I used, and I've forgotten the name of it, because I'm really old, I don't think they can make it anymore. I did like HTML coding and stuff, so I like those, and teacher were like reading some out in class and going, filed a thing like that, yeah. Well, he read them out and was just like speaking about them. We weren't like having a go or anything, and he goes, "Oh, Paul," and I'm like, "Yep," and he's like, "You put down gamer," and a lot of people turned and looked at me, and some like smirking or laughing, and I was like, "What?" I'm like, "You're telling me that you guys don't play and like games?" He's like, "Yeah, we're playing like games, but it's not a job, so you can't earn money off it." And bear in mind, at this point, YouTube still didn't exist. YouTube wasn't a thing. It weren't created until Valentine's Day 2005. I can't believe it's not even 20 years old. That means it's what? It's in 2025, it's YouTube's 20th anniversary. It'll have been 20 years of YouTube. And the weird thing is, with how big the platform is now, it's probably still going to be here 200 years from now. Well after I'm dead. And he's like, what do you mean you put down gamer? And I'm like, well, you get these gaming companies, and I'm like, there's got to be like software developers or programmers, and I'm like, so I've just put down, I think I put down something like gaming industry. I think I could put down gamer, and I want to be able to like, or actually no, I put down game tester, and I said I want to be able to test games for them. They make the games, and I test it and check it out for bugs. And he goes, that's a bit niche to get into, isn't it? And I mentioned to teacher, and a lot of people in Finger were surprised, and he goes, well, there's one in Sheffield. And they were like, what is there? And I'm like, have any of you guys ever heard of Worms? It's like, Worms in Sheffield. I'm like, yeah, Team 17. They're based in Sheffield, like up the road from where we live. I'm like, they're not as far away as you might think. It's not like they're in some foreign country in a fucking land that you can't go to. It's literally like a 15-minute drive up the road. And at that point, then everyone shut up. That what they didn't realise is, I knew even then what I was talking about. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I don't talk about it. If I know what I'm talking about, I talk about it. I wanted to become a game developer back in the day, but those dreams were crushed by my incompetent teacher. The school I went through was a complete waste of time. Don't get me wrong, Shreve, and this'll, I don't know if you'll feel sorry for me for this or not. And this teacher, to be fair, he wasn't doing it maliciously. He did it and came to tell me. I just passed my GCSEs, and it was the last day. We were meeting everyone and everything. I think we're all going to like a local pub afterwards for like a few drinks or some meal or something. Although, well, not a pub for drinking for students, because we were 16. But he came to me and he goes, Paul, they've just got access to IT as a qualification. And I'm like, you're fucking shitting me. So basically, in my school, this is how far back I go, we didn't have IT or ICT as a qualification for GCSEs. The closest thing we had was business studies. And business studies was fucking wank. I could not stand it. I'm like, this business studies, when do I get to actually use a fucking computer? I think in the year and a half of doing the course, I got to use a computer once. It were absolutely fucking dog shit. I could not think of anything fucking worse. So I think the teacher come and told me, because you had the option to stay on a sixth form and do sixth form until you were 18, and you could do it there. But I went to a college in Rotherham, a town near where I lived, and I did IT there, and then I did the advanced course, which was the BTEC National Diploma in IT practitioners. And that had everything. That had 18 different units. You had HTML coding with Dreamweaver, you had game programming, you had everything. They covered all the bases. The only problem were, it was okay for some jobs, other jobs, not so much. So like, I went up and down the country for jobs. I went as far as Reading. I even went over on the train to France for an interview with Blizzard, to become a games master at Blizzard. One thing they didn't care about was your qualifications. They cared about your experience. Not so much with the Blizzard one, but with the game designers, the programmers, they're like, well, I've got a guy sat outside who's got 8 years experience in the industry. He's going to take a few months to train. So if I set you one who's not got any experience in the industry, you could take 6 months or more to train. He said from a business point, it's not financially viable. But I was like, well, how do I get a job then? I said, I spent 2 years at college getting these qualifications to then be told they're no good. And it's like, how would you take it? And like, every place I've gone has pretty much said the same thing. I even offered to work for free as a volunteer, so I could learn the job as I go. They wouldn't take volunteers because somebody's got to double check your work. And I'm like, are you fucking shitting me? So at that point, I was just getting frustrated beyond belief. And I thought, I've spent God knows how much money travelling up and down this fucking country, talking to people on fucking Skype calls. I even went across to another fucking country for a job interview. I mean, who does that if they're not dedicated? And I was like, I'm going to find a way to do it myself. I'm just going to find a way to do it myself. And then, obviously, YouTube had rolled around by this point, but it was in its infancy. But I hadn't got a good computer, and I'd got even worse internet. We'd only got like 56k dial-up shit. So my videos were very low quality, and microphone even lower quality still. So I started out doing some YouTube videos, which is some of the first ones on the channel. And then when I got better internet, when I got fibre, I moved over to streaming on Twitch. The reason I moved over to streaming on Twitch were, one, I did want to stream, and that was the better platform for it, or at least as it appeared. But YouTube had moved their AdSense from 100 subscribers, which I'd made only 2 months prior, to 1,000. So it's like taking the ballpark from one end of the country to the other. I was like, cheers, great. I've just got to minorly times 10 my subscriber base to be able to earn money. Because I still have money in my AdSense account now from when I initially could earn money from ad revenue, when I was first on it with YouTube. But rather than keeping me on the partner program as they should have, I wasn't on it, and I have got to reapply at 500 subscribers. It's like, what? So I got fucked off, left, went to Twitch, and then I was on my way to like pushing up the things towards the partner program and stuff. And then Twitch said, "Oh, we're changing the revenue share for partners from 70-30 to 50-50." And I'm like, when I'm an affiliate, I'm already on 50-50. So you're telling me I become a partner and I literally gain nothing? I gain no extra revenue? So the whole point was that my supporters who were giving me money, I would basically, more than money would go to where they want it to go, which was to me, not to the big multi-billion corporation. And they changed that, and I'm like, fuck this, I'm off. And then all that controversy started coming out about Twitch, which is still going on now with all the like hot tub streams and shit like that, and then laying off their staff. And I'm back here to stay. And then I've just got to regrind, because obviously having a 5-year break where you weren't on YouTube, you can imagine probably didn't do too well for your channel. Otherwise by now I'd have been in the thousands rather than trying to get towards 1,000. But it's always been gaming. Always been gaming for me. Always. It's always what I've wanted. As long as I can remember it. And I don't know why it is. I mean, like some people say sometimes, you come home from work, you're stressed, you're tired, you might sit down, have a drink, have some food. And then primarily these days, people usually do one of 3 things. They'll either get engrossed in a good book, if you're a book reader. They'll watch a TV show or a film, or you'll play on your favourite computer game. For me, computer game was always the first choice. I am a big reader as well. I do like reading books, because I brought my own book as well. And I could get engrossed in a good book, but that's something normally I'd read at night time. I'd read that an hour or two before I went to bed, and then fall asleep. But when I got home and I wanted to like chill out and de-stress from my day at work after getting shit from managers and co-workers that just talk out the fucking arse, it was just nice to just chill out and just play a computer game and just blow off some steam before you go back to work next day for the same shit. And that's what it were with me. It took you away from your real world crap for a while to chill out. And I think that's where some games lose their like glamour, lose their shine, when you're no longer getting that satisfaction of de-stressing. If you're coming home from work and you're playing a game that's causing you to get stressed out, that's having the opposite effect of what you want. If you've got people and they're griefing and trolling and being assholes, that's not the environment you really want to be in. If you just come from an environment like that at work, it's not a good thing. I mean, why do you play games, Shrafe? What is it that drew you to games? You just like them anyway? Or is it like a genre thing? Or a passing the time things? Oh, fucking hell. I got scared crapless on that fucking TikTok of it by Michael Myers. Jesus. I had some bad jump scares from Myers. That fucker always gets me. He's one killer in that game that they got right. Because you don't see him until the last moment. Because he's got a black painter suit on. He kind of blends in with the background. All you can see is that white fucking mask. And you don't notice it until he's right on top of you. And it's like, oh my god. Game's a completely new thing. It was mid to late 90s when I first tried it. It's more fascination towards how everything worked till I got games of my own. Been gamer since very young age. Same here, buddy. Same here. I said I was playing the old 2D fucking bouncing ball games and Space Invaders and shit, me. Pac-Man. That's where I all started. And then you got games like your first Command and Conquers, Dark Colony, your Warcraft games. There used to be a game, like a platformer action combat game. I forgot what it was called. And a guy had a gun and you had to get through this level and do these really fucking hard jumps. But it was a good game, but it was very challenging. I can't remember what that were. You had one of the first real sounding combat gun games, which was Siphon Filter. Siphon Filter's like a... I suppose like a mix between sort of like Call of Duty and Splinter Cell. Sort of. More action than stealth, but you had an aspect of it in there. But Siphon Filter was good. That was a good game. GTA, Quake, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and Final Fantasy. I played Final Fantasies. Crash Bandicoot, I didn't really play it, or Spyro. I saw them played, but they weren't something that I was really interested in. They weren't my type of thing. Again, a bit too anime kiddified. I played obviously all the Quakes, and I played the first couple of Grand Theft Autos that were 2D, and I think I played Vice City. I always loved the fucking band of Elvises, that where they were just walking around the city as a group going, ha ha ha. That were fucking, so fucking funny when you got those. And if you'd run over like one of the Elvises, the other 6 would try and kill you. They like fucking took it personally, like holy shit. And then they had like that entire clan in Fallout 4 called the Kings, and they were all dressed like Elvis. And the real guy, the leader of the clan, who they call Elvis, they call him the King. He was voiced by one of these like singers who does impersonations of Elvis, but he gets them really spot on. And they got that guy to do the voice lines for the guy playing Elvis. He's so good. I like that. Actually sounds like Elvis. So good. I love that. That by the way as well, as my Fallout games go. Fallout 4, the best Fallout they've ever done to date so far. I know the new one's coming out, Fallout London, which has been done by a mod of a guy, a very talented person, I think from England. And they need to start doing some more cities for Fallout that are outside of the US. They need to start doing some more primary capitals. They could do like Fallout Paris, Fallout China, Fallout Moscow, Fallout fucking Rome. You know, do some other big cities in other countries. Don't just stick to the US. There are other places it would affect. Because they did Boston, I think, in Fallout 3. You've got Vegas, obviously, New Vegas. In fact, no, it wasn't Boston, it was DC. It was Boston in Fallout 4. I don't know where it went in Fallout 76, but Fallout 76 was the first one was coming out of the vault. So that game went to a bad place. Because again, that's like what happened with Dawn of War, where they changed it from being a single-player narrative open world game to being a multiplayer game where you create your own narrative. It's like, what? So it was that bad and that poorly received, they changed it. And it's like, yeah, don't ever do this shit again. It's like, if you want to do this, just create fucking Fallout Online like you've done with Elder Scrolls. Create your separate online studio that runs the online game. Don't do this crap. Fucking stupid. I don't know why on earth they thought that was going to be a good idea. I really don't. But then hope for the learn for like, let's say we call it Fallout 5. So hope for the learn for Fallout 5 and Fallout 5 go back to what they were doing beforehand. Because then it potentially could be a very good game. And I always love it when they bring out the DLCs for the Fallouts. Because there's always a DLC off the corner of the maps. So usually you have one north, one east, one south, one west. And then like in Fallout New Vegas you had an optional one, another one, that was near, I suppose it would be southwest of the map. It wasn't near the bottom, it was like in between the two. And that was where you got abducted by aliens. They took you up in space into their spaceship. And that were a good one as well. But that was such a good fucking game. It really fucking were. If they did fucking Fallout New Vegas remastered in better graphics and ironed out some of the bugs and did it in like a new engine, but it weren't as like crashy and temperamental, I would 100% be doing a fucking playthrough of that. 100 fucking percent. New Vegas had the moon expansion. Yeah, it had a load of weird shit on New Vegas. It was brilliant. So good. What I liked best were though, is they actually put Ron Perlman's character, not like his appearance, but the person he was voicing, into the game. Because he voiced the Fallouts at the start of the Fallouts. And you play Courier 6 in Fallout New Vegas. He played Courier 5. And I think it's Lonely Roads, the DLC. You're basically chasing down Courier 5. And at the end part of the game, Courier 5 launches a nuke. And you've got 4 options. You can target New Vegas and wipe it out. You can target basically the supply lines of the Legion, the evil guys that are like Romans, and wipe out their supply line, basically crippling them and making it so they'll no longer be a massive threat in the region. You can target the headquarters of the Rangers, don't know why you would. Or I think if you've got high enough technological skills, you can disarm the nuke. I didn't have high enough tech skills to disarm it. So what I did was I targeted the Legion. Because the Legion weren't people I were friends with anyway. I hated them. So I took out the only bad guy in that particular group. the basic Legion area, and the ending like cinematic telling you what happens to the Eyebot and how it talks to your Eyebot as it's leaving Nevada to go and find the scientist who saved him from being like decommissioned was that sentimental. I can't remember if the game brought me to tears or almost brought me to tears, but that game was so fucking moving, so good. The writing on that for the story was fucking spot on. It was absolutely brilliant. It was really, really good. Because I love that fucking Eyebot. The Eyebot, I think you could have... I can't remember if you could have one companion or two. I think you could have two. But the Eyebot was my favourite companion. Because it flew around, it didn't get in your way. Other ones, you had, again, another game with collision. You had collision between you and your companions. They could block doorways and get in your way. You're able to phase straight through them. They'd get in your way and you'd get stuck and you've got to like walk back into the room and hope they move so you can walk out. But the Eyebot didn't get in your way. You kind of like you bobbed underneath him sort of because he'd fly around, and you could use him to carry like loads of extra stuff for you. But the Eyebot was awesome with that. But it was that's Fallout at its finest. Only thing they need to do to make Fallout New Vegas better is they couldn't do it then, they could do it now with better graphics. But that wouldn't improve the gameplay. The gameplay would still be good. And get rid of some of the bugs. I know that when Microsoft bought Bethesda, I think they bought for them or designed them a new engine. And that's what they're supposed to be using for the next Elder Scrolls. Because again, the same problem with Elder Scrolls is they're too buggy. They're far too buggy. They're using an engine from like Windows XP era. It's like, no, you need a modernised engine. So you can use that and maybe even use something like Unreal 5 or something. Get a better engine to design your game on. You don't need a fucking thing from back in the day. It just ain't working. It's not correlating over to the modern systems. And I know I'm on Windows 10. Now there's still games coming out for Windows 10. But at some point in 2025, they are stopping support for Windows 10. So I will have to upgrade to Windows 11. I know at some point I'm going to have to. But I will make that transition when I have to. They've needed to upgrade their design system for a long time, and they haven't. And they wonder why they keep getting massive amounts of bugs, and they've got to spend like years after the game's released to go back and bug fix it. So when an Elder Scrolls game generally comes out, you're better off waiting a year or two before you buy it, so they can get rid of all the goddamn bugs. But I'm hoping that won't be an issue in Elder Scrolls 6. I'm hoping they'll actually have it when they bring out Hammerfell. Fallout 4 and Curie Best Follower. Curie. What is Curie in that? Is Curie the dog? Honestly, I think because I got annoyed by followers in Fallout New Vegas, I didn't really take followers with me on Curie's the Floating Bauble. Oh, there's another Eyebot as well, was there? I didn't take followers with me on spoken a French accent. I didn't take followers with me on Fallout 4. I left the followers at my main base. So basically, they were all housed there, and they were basically defending my base. Because your base had come under attack, I'm okay. I've got like 5 different followers there that are all badasses. I'm like, they'll be fine. And then I got turrets up the fucking wazoo as well. So I was I wanted to do it more solo, I think, in that one. Because I think I've got a partial playthrough of Fallout 4 on the channel. Somebody was watching one other day. And I was like, what? I was like, who's watching Fallout 4? Somebody's watching one of my Nuka World DLC, I think. Because I did the Automatron, I did the Island one, and then the Nuka World. And somebody's watching one of them. And I'm like, that's really old content. Because that'll be it'll be an inferior computer to what I've got now. So it won't be as good graphics. and I think it was with my old mic. I'm not sure if I had my face cam on. Fallout 4 dog follower is a synth. Oh, the dog's a robot, is it? How come it wasn't mutated at all like other animals? It just appears out of nowhere and is a happy puppy. Well, don't forget, like, not every animal got mutated. There are some animals that avoided the mutations. And there were some dogs kept also in the vaults alongside the humans, as well as some cats. Because I was saying this to Ella the other day, because everyone's been talking about rumours and ramblings about like World War III with Putin. I don't think it's quite that stupid way to want to doom the world to nuclear oblivion, because it wouldn't be a world worth living in, even if, say, half the human race did survive, like in the Terminator scenario. Even if half the world did survive, you'd probably lose another billion people to starvation and fucking lack of unradiated water. Carving out a living day to day would be extremely difficult. I wouldn't want to live in that world. I'd rather just go out in a bang with one of the nukes. But when they launch a nuclear warhead, the whole purpose of a nuclear warhead is to target population centres. So they're going to target big cities, maybe big towns. But towns, for the most part, will probably get overlooked. Because they're only going to have so many nukes, and they're going to be targeting all the big cities. Especially capital cities of like each country. They're all going to be getting a nuke flying at them. And then maybe some of the other cities within the country. They're not going to be targeting your rinky-dink towns in the middle of God's nowhere. So if you live out in the hills or mountains in the middle of God's nowhere, just like animals generally do, they'll go largely unaffected. They wouldn't even... They might hear the explosion, but it wouldn't affect them. The radiation wouldn't get out there. The radiation, when a nuke's supposed to go off, is supposed to fall, and it makes ground level within about 2 hours of the nuke, like, exploding. So you've got 2 hours to get outside of what they call the exclusion zone. If you can get outside of that range, you won't even feel the effects of the radiation immediately. It's more the blast wave and the explosion that you've got to survive. But even then, it's, can you find unirradiated sources of water? Can you get enough food? At that point, humanity is going to degrade into its animalistic state of survival of the fittest. And they're going to take what they can from you. And even if it means killing you, it's one left mouth to feed. Humanity's at its worst when everything's down. That's just how it's always been. And it's... Obviously, the Fallout one, you know, the nuke went off and it hit the nearby city of Boston. Boston's a big city, so it would probably be a target. But if that dog was on the outskirt towns of Boston, it wouldn't have been affected by the radiation at all. And once the radiation settled and it's in the ground, you'll have what they call hotspots, like they've got in Chernobyl still. You've got hotspots here and there, where there's like a intense pool of radiation, even if you can't see it. But for the most, the radiation will be largely in the soil. It won't actually affect you, for the most part. Unless you physically eat something out of the soil, or drink something out of the water if the water's irradiated. But water's also good at dispersing radiation. You've got to bear in mind as well, animals are much more naturally resistant to radiation than we are. They've done tests on rats. Rats, if they're affected by radiation, but not direct radiation, like a focused dose, rats actually get bigger and more aggressive. Cockroaches, centipedes, scorpions, they're not affected by radiation at all. They just get bigger and meaner. They don't actually, they have a negative effects. They're whatever it is that's in their makeup, they thrive in a radiated environment. They would take over the world in the event of a nuclear war. And there's scorpions, there's cockroaches everywhere. Red Forest, the frogs around Chernobyl are all black because of radiation. Yeah. The weird thing is, I've watched a few programmes on Chernobyl and the effects on wildlife. Some have had adverse effects like reducing the lifespan of birds and turning frogs black, things like that. But then I watched a fishing programme with a guy called Jeremy Wade, and he did one on, I think it was a goonch, either a goonch or some sort of catfish, and that is, I think, double its normal size because of the radiation. That's been positively affected rather than negatively affected. So most animals get reduced in size, even if they do generations like are adapted to the radiation in the area, but it's reduced their size and their lifespan. But these particular fish have gotten bigger. So that's a weird thing. Have you seen that TV series Chernobyl? Oh my god. I have to fast forward past that episode about fucking where they're killing all dogs. Dogs and cats, I can't fucking watch it. I'm like, no, I'm not watching that. No, thank you. I haven't seen it yet. I won't ruin it for you. Give it a watch. It's good. There's the guy in it who plays the villain in Sherlock Holmes alongside Robert Downey Jr. He plays Professor James Moriarty, and that guy in it is fucking brilliant. He's brilliant. He's really, really good. Oh, forgot about that. Oh, there's an update for Last Epoch. Well, I'm looking forward to completing Last Epoch as well, Sharif. I'll be honest with you. I'll be glad when I can just grind it like fuck. 1.7 gig. I'll do it after stream. I'm going to be finishing in... what time are we on here? I'll be finishing at 5 anyway. So I'm really, really hungry. So I need to get some food in me. I've got my new playthrough series starting tonight though. Funny enough, we talk about nuclear war. Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus tonight, and they're obviously surviving a nuclear war. So that's actually really, really good. Plays well, really good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to... I want to get to the end game of Last Epoch. Once the playthrough's done, I might do more videos, I might not. But if I do, it'll be like more the end game sort of stuff. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's a game I'm going to be keeping in my library and playing. Because I want to play a two-handed guy with like a barbarian like whirlwind build. I've heard there's an ability, something called Warpath, and I think that's the like spin to win sort of thing. Was that it? Soup. What a good one. What's that? Nip under there. Fair enough. I think she's just talking in her sleep. She's chirping and making weird noises. Bless her. But yeah, I'm gonna be looking into I probably might. I don't know if I'll glance at a guide. I don't know. I usually like to make my own builds in ARPGs, and then if need be, rework them later on if they don't completely work right. But like if I'm making like a spin to win type build on the I'm guessing like the Sentinel guy. Obviously, you want a decent two-hander, but I'm not sure if there's specializations for weapons or not on two-handers. If they do, I have to decide which one I want to like focus on, and then just focus on that type of two-handed weapon. And then I probably want like 4 buff abilities, either buff or debuff, because that'd be the best way to like build a warpath build if that's the case. Because your only ability you're gonna be using is gonna be a warpath. Your other 4 abilities are going to be buffing you or debuffing the enemy. That's what you used to do as well when Barbarian, when you were playing Diablo 2. That's how you'd play it. You just use Whirlwind, but you'd buff yourself up with usually 3 war shouts, and then you'd have, I think it was one ability to either debuff them, or you had Berserk if there were some enemies that were physical immune, because then Berserk did your magical damage, so you could then kill them if they were physically immune. Which I never understood that. I think that was a bad mistake on Blizzard's part. It's like, yeah, let's make enemies physically immune, and then you can have these rare ones you come across that'd be physical and magically immune. And I'd be like, what? Like, why is that a thing? Why is it immune to anything? It shouldn't be immune at all. I could understand something being tanky, but not immune. That's just ridiculous. Hey, Overlord, how you doing, buddy? Just talking about games. Any you want to drop in? You do your gaming thing, don't you? Because Shrift said he does a lot of D&D and stuff. You do some of your group, don't you? But have you done when you've been playing yours last? Like what where have you been at? Is it a custom campaign? Is it D&D you've been playing, or is it something else?
Creating his own RPG type game where it's and he's trying to get a rule book done up and all that and get it published.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I always like that. It's like some of the I've never done it myself, but the role playing community apparently on WoW are really serious on it, and they have something where they design like a background to their character. I'm not sure if it's like an add-on or if it's something that Blizzard have created themselves, and they design
No,
like.
it's,
Go on.
I know what you're on about. There's no add-on involved in the WoW one. It's just they create a background.
But it's like a thing they can bring up on the screen. It's like a document. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've seen it on like a few streams, and they bring it up and it like tells all the backstory about their character and who they are. But other people
Yeah.
can also click on you and they can read your backstory.
Yeah. I've seen it a couple of times. It's an interesting concept, but
And what's your take on the Plunderstorm thing for World of Warcraft?
the what?
Have you not looked it up? Have a look. Type in Plunderstorm World of Warcraft. It's a 6-week event. Oh, apparently Strafe said it is an add-on. Alright, it's an add-on. Now see, that, for RPers, that is something that should be in the base game. So they can develop a background for the character, if they want to. Something you can toggle on, toggle off, and then you can fill it in and design your own, your own background for your RP character. Because at the end of the day, World of Warcraft, I might class it as an MMO, but it is an MMORPG. Otherwise, it'd be just an MMOG. For me, it is an MMOG, because I don't do the role-playing side of things. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be available to the role-players. They should have complete right to play the game how they want to play it that way. And that's not something that affects the game in a negative or a positive way. That's just their own thing they want to do. And probably the role-players at the moment are the ones having the best time of their lives, because they don't give a shit what Blizzard do in World of Warcraft. They don't care. They don't give a fuck about Raiding, Mythic Plus, PvP, they don't give a toss. The RPers have got it best. Because all they need is there's certain towns not to be messed with, and they do their RP all day long, wherever it is they RP at. And they do their own stuff. One thing that somebody has mentioned, which I think was a pretty good take, you know this Plunderstorm thing they've done for World of Warcraft? You need a WoW sub to be able to play it. But if you're using that as a way to get new people into the game, which is what the devs said on the dev stream, why do you require a WoW sub? Why haven't you made it free to play? Because realistically, it should be free to play. Because then people have never been exposed to World of Warcraft before can play an aspect of World of Warcraft for the very first time. And then they might go from being somebody who's not played World of Warcraft to then being a subscriber. Because if you need a WoW subscription, that's only appealing to the current WoW base. It's kind of odd. Had complex backstory to my character. Warrior and her twin sister was turned to Death Knight. The Death Knight starting area, you have to kill someone important to you. I wrote that to the backstory as she killed the warrior character, but she survived and spent all the time trying to track her sister down. That's pretty cool. The one that got me were, and fun enough, this was in Shadowlands. On Shadowlands, on the outskirts of Shadowlands, when Bolvar eventually comes through to Oribos, you've got these two Death Knights that stand by talking. I think one's called Thalassian or something. They're like really like OG Death Knights. And I think one of them was the student initially, and they were both like I think going to be paladins or warriors. And then the student died, and the student became a Death Knight, but the student then killed the master and turned him into a Death Knight. And they've both been fighting alongside each other ever since.
It's an interesting idea. I don't know how well it'll work.
Well, what it is in that one, that's classless. So it's a classless system. All you do is make a pirate of the species you want. And you have two abilities. You have a basic attack and you have a heal. And then you pick up 5 other abilities through the course of the game. You can steal them from other players. You can get them from elite mobs. You can get them out of chests. And then when you first pick up an ability, if you get like a white version, you can upgrade it to green, blue, and then epic. So you can get the powerful versions of it. So if you pick up the same ability twice, you'll get that at green rather than at white. Unless it's already green, then you'll get it at blue. And you basically can upgrade the abilities. But the point is, they've only got 7 abilities. So it's like if you're trialing 7 abilities now, which would be really good if anything goes on the Game Pass, that's what they need to put in the base game. If they're using that as a testing subject, a 6 weeks test, and that takes off well, which is what a lot of people have already said, correlate that over to PvE and bring it down to 7 abilities. Because there's no big cooldown abilities, they're all like 10 seconds or less cooldown. So you can use them all continuously. That's what they need. Then all people have got to do is figure out their rotation. They haven't got to wait for like a 3-minute CD for a big burst window. That to me creates the problem that Final Fantasy's got. Where Final Fantasy's got like a 2-minute burst window, because all classes have now got 1 2-minute CD. And they all choose a window and a boss to burst in that 2-minute window. So you get a massive burst, and then it falls off. And it's like, well, why have these big 2-minute CDs in anyway? Just have normal abilities that you can use more frequently. And you can have a smooth, fluid rotation. Make the abilities matter. Why does a Warlock have 4 fucking fears? Why is that a thing? I don't get it. It's got like a fear, a terror, a horrify, and something else.
Have you seen the new hero talent trees for a while?
Oh my god, don't get me started on that. I mean, at least they're passives. At least they're passives. But why? I don't understand some of them why. Because some people have looked at them and scratched their head and gone, well, what? And it's like, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand. It's really, really peculiar.
I think from what I'm reading and looking at, it allows you to combine the specs a bit more.
it powers up what you've already got, weirdly enough. But I don't know why they've chose to do it that particular way. It's really confusing.
I'm interested. I mean, when the next expansion for War comes out, I'm going to give it a wee try.
Give it a wee try, you know, give me some feedback on it, see what you think.
Yeah.
I won't be playing it unless they make drastic changes.
The one thing noticed that is going to make it interesting will be the fact that you can solo dungeons.
You can't solo dungeons, you mean the delves?
Yeah, well,
It's
you don't need other players. You don't have to.
You don't
work on
know.
other players.
It's 1 to 5 content, and then there is a solo content option being added in as well that you specifically just do solo. But see, this is one of the weird things. One of the best things they removed from the game, which you could use to get gear as well as other things, and it was all solo content, unless you wanted to call in other players to help you on some of the bigger bosses, was the Brawlers Guild. Why did they take out the Brawlers Guild? Every time I went down to the Brawlers Guild, it were fucking packed. It were amazing. And people just queued up, and you got put into your queue and did your fight next after that person. So you could just be queued up in it, and even if you're like 9th in the queue, you're like, right, there's 8 fights before me, then I get to do my fight. And you didn't need a tanking or a healing spec in there, it was purely for your damage. You might have had some spells to heal you, but a lot of the things in there one-shot your character. So you had to avoid the mechanics and then kill the boss. And the boss had a mechanic in order to kill them. And I think it made, like, bad players good or average, and average players even better. Because it taught them how to, like, handle some really decent boss mechanics by themselves. Any add-ons for that shit either. It were brilliant the way it was. And then you've got the time limit on it, where you've got to meet like your DPS check, because it didn't show a timer like Mythic Plus does, but every boss had its own different time limit. If you don't kill it, the gnome guy fucking just basically one-shots you like a fucking laser. It basically just goes across the entire arena. I don't know what that was, to be fair, that was kind of weird. But there's been a lot of changes to that game over the years, and I when somebody pointed that out to me the other day, when the acquisition of Activision buying Blizzard was during the end of Cataclysm, and Cataclysm when it all started to go downhill. Maybe that's the reason why. Maybe Activision was the problem and not Blizzard. Maybe they came and started sticking their nose in, sacking some of the Blizzard guys, putting their own people in charge, but all they've come from is a first-person multiplayer fucking shooter game. And they come and stick their nose into a MMO they have no business even being involved in. See now, Activision and Blizzard now are separate companies again, essentially. They've been bought by Microsoft, and they've split them. So Activision's got its own team to focus on its games, and Blizzard's got its own team to focus on its games, and they've all got their own lead developer. So every department basically has its own lead developer. Diablo's got one, Hearthstone's got one, World of Warcraft's got one, and they all report to Phil Spencer. So they don't have like a head of their company anymore. That's the better way. Guild Wars has that system. You have 8 skills on your hotbar, and you can combine 2 classes together. See, 8 skills is not bad. I think anything under 10 is reasonable. If you need to have double figure abilities, like that screenshot I showed earlier on, why? Why do you need 12 abilities on the bottom, 12 on the top, and then you've got another 12 off to the side? That's 36 fucking abilities. No game, and I do mean no game, should require more than fucking 9. no game on the planet. You don't require more than 9 abilities in a game. I don't care what MMO it is by what company. If you need to justify having 30 abilities, your game's bad. It's a bad game. Simplify it, cut out the shit abilities that are duplicates or that you've got extras of, or that are just inferior damage dealers compared to the better ones, and just use those simple ones. That's all you've got to do. Don't overcomplicate it with crap. Like, I love Last Epoch. Have you played Last Epoch or Overlord?
No, I still can't afford it.
It's fine. Don't rush to get it. It's a brilliant game. It'll be around for a long time to come, trust me. But what's really good about it is, you start out playing your character, and then at levels, I think there's 5, 10, 20, and basically across the course of leveling up to like 50, you unlock 5 abilities you can basically like empower. And basically when you click them to be unlocked, they then have like a spec tree. And in that spec tree you can choose how you want to empower your ability to make it better. So me, I'm going a full minion build as Necromancer. So I've got skeletons, bone golem, wraiths. I've got the volatile zombie, and then I'm going to be getting the mage, the skeleton mage, which I can turn into a Death Knight. And basically, you can have these 5 creatures, and you basically summon them all, and you have like a menagerie of death. But if you wanted to, you could say you play a sorceress, and you could choose, or sorceress, a guy in this, and you could choose 5 spells you really like. And then you can choose what you want to branch in that spell tree. It should have been split from the start. Oh, you mean the Blizzard company things, the departments? I think the departments were split when it was Blizzard in control. I don't think it was split when Activision took over, because obviously they were merging it together, and they were basically looking to sack some developers on both sides, but then make the departments a bit larger by moving them to different. They're basically going to be on multiple projects. Where now you've just got a Diablo team, you've got a WoW team, you've got an Overwatch team, you've got separate teams working on their own separate things. And that's how it should be. They should all have their own lead developer, senior developers underneath him, and then your regular developers and your junior developers below them. And that's how you should have it. And they should be given the time to work on the game appropriately. Because like some of those games I mentioned earlier, Redfall, Starfield, Diablo 4, and Skull and Bones, they're all crap. Have you seen the gameplay of Skull and Bones? It's absolutely fucking ass. It's terrible. How their CEO classed that as a quadruple A game, I do not fucking know. Bear in mind, quadruple A doesn't even exist because of the bonding system. It only goes up to triple A. But it is shit. The graphics aren't as good as think as even Black Flag. You can't board the enemy ships. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Do you think that's us? So I found one downside to Thunderstorm already.
What's up?
So the attack, you have to hit level. You have to hit your R button. You can't change the keybind to use mouse. So movement is WASD, and the attacks are R and T. You can't change the keybind for them.
For those basic 2, I don't think you can. But for the other 5, I think you can. The 5 that you collect as you go through the thingy. But that's something they can easily change, we both know that. If that's something people ask for, I have no doubt they can change that. If there's not an option on there where you can do it, I'm sure that's something they can do. But one thing I noticed on Plunderstorm Overlord, there's no add-ons. Not one single add-on in the game. And it plays just like regular World of Warcraft, just with so much less shit and less abilities. The only thing is, they wanted to pull in new players, but it's not open to everyone because you need a WoW subscription to play it. Where if they made it free to play, other players that aren't currently and got a WoW subscription could then play it and try it out. But like, either yeah, I like this, or I'll give the actual game a go, or no, this is shit. Current Diablo 4 team is a bunch of Muppets, just a bunch of Muppets. They don't even know how their own game works. The best Diablo 4 team, in my opinion, was Diablo 2. Diablo 1 was good, Diablo 2 was better. I didn't play Diablo 3 because, in my opinion, that was a downhill trend. And that's also because they deviated from the story. The story ended with the death of the three primevals. And they died in Diablo 2. They're not supposed to still be alive. So if they wanted to make a game based on that world, they shouldn't have called it Diablo. They should have just called it after the name of the world, which is Sanctuary. So they could have just called it Sanctuary 1. And then based it off the entire world of Sanctuary. Why not do that? Why keep Diablo alive when he's died? His essence was completely obliterated upon his soul sword being destroyed. He's not supposed to be alive. So I think it all began with the downfall of the storyline. And then the gameplay got worse and worse and worse to the current shit now. They've just brought out the leaderboards crap for that fucking, whatever it was, the end game feature for Diablo 4. And the funniest thing is, a guy on stream checked the leaderboards. There was 10 people to a leaderboard. There was only 2 pages. That means only 20 people had done the end game content. That's embarrassing. So they either are a bunch of muppets and they're completely shit developers that should be sacked, or they're not being given enough time to develop the game properly. Now, I think money men generally hold a big point in it, and Blizzard and Activision have been slaves to their investors for a long time. If you've got somebody there tapping fucking wristwatch saying, come on, speed up, that's not how developers are going to work. Developers work at the same way that I would if I want to play a game. You don't want a timer. Allow them time to do their work. If you give people time to do their work, it'll be better for it. If you rush them, they're going to fuck things up. They're going to make mistakes. And personally, if somebody tapping watch at me, I'd take the fucking watch off him and beat him that fucking head with it. I'm like, tap. What? One?
Oh, Total War 20% offset though.
Ooh. Skull and Bones is basically a mobile game, even mobile games have more gameplay. I'm not going to disagree with you. Don't remember the details of D3, but Diablo was reborn from one NPC. Yeah, I know it was stupid though. D14 should know what the fuck they're doing, that's a fact. I agree. I mean, I think one of the biggest complaints I've heard, Shreef, is something to do with, I want to say Uber Lilith. Something about one of the one-shot mechanics being the same colour as the floor. So you couldn't see the mechanic.
It looks like Total War 3's not doing too well in the review section.
What do you mean?
Out of the 3,091 reviews, only 35% of them are positive.
What? Let me check this a second. What, Total War Warhammer?
Yeah. Looking on Steam, mostly negative reviews.
That might have been because of what happened with their, when they got charged more for the DLC.
Yeah.
Players didn't like that. And the thing is...
Well, they're probably not going to like their current new DLC that's 20 quid. But it's currently 16 quid. Because of this sale.
Yeah, but even then, that's still cheaper than the previous one at 25.
Yeah. I miss playing it. I haven't played it in a while.
Play it, but it's up a campaign.
Yeah.
I'm still doing my playthroughs. Oh, it's mostly positive on the recent reviews, but it's mixed overall.
Yeah.
On mine, it's a 61%. 61% of 68,188.
It should be interesting, actually.
So it's still over half, but I think a lot of that is because of what happened with the DLC. So a lot of people changed their reviews and downvoted the game. I'm not going to change my opinion on the game for the price of a DLC. The game is still good. It's got bugs in it that need fixing, yeah. But it's still a good game. On launch, Total War's always a mess, Shreef. And again, this comes down to a time factor again. Hiya, Kyle. This comes down to a time factor. What is the one thing that we had, Overlord, when we launched Realm of Chaos? What did we notice that the game had got? What did it have built in as the core mechanic of Realm of Chaos?
It's been a while since we did that. So,
well, your overall thing was to get the 4 souls, weren't it? And then beat Baelakor. Yep. So they created, again, a time vent in a grand strategy game where there should never be a time event. You had to rush to get the 4 souls, because if you didn't, the AI was going to. And these portals keep spawning and chucking out more aggressive armies to a point where then all the portals open and you've got demons running fucking everywhere. They created a time event and they've done it every single fucking time they've launched a campaign at the start. That's why nobody cares about CE's campaigns, because they're fucking shit. The only game that CE have done, other than Warhammer, that's good, is the one right now on the screen. Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation, fucking fantastic. And there's no fucking time limit. Stop putting time limits in games. Stop it. It's bad.
I'm looking forward to Insomnia at the end of the month. It's going to be interesting.
You're looking forward to not sleeping? Okay.
Oh no, the gaming festival, Insomnia.
Oh, right, okay. I was like, what? That's an odd thing to look forward to. I actually like my sleep.
I don't sleep much anyway.
I know you don't. What this is, Kyle, do CE not follow actual Games Workshop law? No, because Games Workshop allow them to change it. That's, for example, that is why Grom the Paunch is alive. Oh, that download's causing my game to lag.
What are you downloading?
I'm not, it's doing it by itself, I haven't told it to do it. It's a patch for Last Epoch.
I just hit pause.
I'm going to... Oh, it's done it.
Must have been
Okay.
a small one.
What the hell? Weird. Example, Games Workshop retconned a lot of the lore. So they retconned that Grom the Paunch was alive. Grom the Paunch got decapitated by Eltharion the Grim, and then he burnt his body to ash. They retconned that so they could bring Grom the Paunch back into Warhammer 3. You've got a Panster Leoness. Bear in mind, she's a regular human. She was alive 400 years before the birth of Luan Leon Kerr, the current king of Bretonia. So there'd be no way for him to meet her, or any of the current Legendary Lords of Bretonia, because she died over 400 years ago, doing crusades into the Southlands against the Tomb Kings. So it's not so much lore friendly, but they're bringing in like characters throughout the history of the lore. And this cow, by the way, this is a new thing I'm doing on Wednesdays called Game Talk. I'm just going to basically put a playthrough up on the stream, no sound, let that play through, and I'm just going to talk to you guys about anything gaming related for 5 or 6 hours. I'm just going to have a chill and talk with you. Because at the end of the day, this is more about interacting and talking with you guys anyway for the streaming side of things. My primary content is my videos, but with that, I don't want to talk to you guys apart from maybe in the comment section. This is more for me talking to you guys, and we can sit down, have a chat, be in Discord if you want to join me on Discord, and just have a chat together about anything gaming related, anything you want. Can be old games, new games. We've gone for a right lot of stuff today, me and Shrafe. All sorts. Even some of my backstory on when I first loved games. And like, my dream is 33 years in the making. I've had my dream for 33 years of being a full-time content creator. But that's before it was even known to be a full-time content creator. Because back in 1990, YouTube didn't exist. YouTube, do you know, was founded on Valentine's Day 2005. That's ridiculous. They brought it out on Valentine's Day? Dabbling on Spectre lore. Dude, you can ask Spectre lore any fucking time. I'm an open book when it comes to stuff like that. I don't mind talking about stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, that's all game related as well. I loved all that shit. Just obviously when I initially wanted to be one, it didn't have a title, it didn't have a name. The closest thing to being a gamer then that paid you money would be like a game tester, which means you're working for a company and you've probably got some spanner for a boss and co-workers. Where when I can do this, I can work by myself. I don't need anyone else to like rely on, and I don't need anyone else barking orders at me. But it's just, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, if some people have said gaming's dying, but gaming ain't dying. Gaming's gonna be here long after my bones are dust. Guarantee you.
You know what looks good? Oh,
Go on, buddy.
Till you finish. I was going to say Dragon's Dogma 2 looks good.
It does indeed. I've already got it on my list. It's on the ideas for content page.
Yeah, release date.
You know, check something for me, Overlord. You know when you go on Discord and you go on the ideas, can you click on pinned messages? Does it show them you, or have you not got access to them?
1 second. Discord. Ideas for comments and messages. I can see them.
You can see them, right. So that one's on there. It's always going to be pinned, and I'll update that as I go. So as you guys find me games that I like the look of, I'll add it to either the top or the bottom based on if it's released or not.
Oh, it's not actually the Dragon's Dogma.
It should be at the top.
Oh, already. Yeah,
You can already buy it.
Yeah, well, officially not out till till Friday.
No, but obviously because I can purchase it, that's why I put it there. When you can't purchase it, like the bulk of the games on my wishlist on Steam, they're not available to even be bought in any capacity. So they're down there at the moment until they get an actual release date and able to purchase it. Because I'm assuming that's probably like a pre-purchase.
Yep.
Gaming is bigger than any movie / series. I agree. Losing my mind, I've waited for Dragon's Dogma 2. Been waiting for the game for 11 years, just 2 more days till I complete.
Dragon Dogma 2 on CD keys is $37.49, whereas on Steam it's $53.98.
Yeah.
So you're 31% saving.
I won't be getting it yet. I've got too much content to make, Overlord. I will be getting it. It will be going there in the future. But at the moment, I've got all Metro Exodus to go through. Let's have a look what I've got. Let's have a look with you guys. Let's do it live. Fuck it, why not? So I've just started this because I completed Scorn. I've got Poppy Playtime. I know the first part's free, but the DLCs aren't. I've got The Hotel. I've got Close to the Sun, and I've got Black Mesa, which were a good spot by Carl because at the time they were like £3. Jimmy Bob Age of Wonders 4, that has got a campaign on that in a weird way, so I will do that at some point. That's for the strategy side.
I'm not sure if Black Mesa still works though.
This is the new one. Just came out. Came out like a few days ago, whatever it were, maybe a week. It's brand spanking new. It's been done by modders, updated, and Valve have let them release it. It's not the Black Mesa you're thinking of. It's exactly like it, the playthrough wise, but it's not the original game. It's the updated version they've done with the graphics and stuff and the gameplay.
The other one that I'm looking that was originally released on PS5 but is now on Steam is Ghost of Tsushima.
I've seen that gameplay on stream. I'm unsure about it. I don't know. I'd have to have another look, a more in-depth look. I think games I'll probably try and steer clear of for future reference for content on the channel. But more like your RPG type games, like your Remnant 2. Because when it's a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking to NPCs, that's a bit boring. I prefer something a bit more fluid for the people to watch. And it's not at all a gripe at you guys, because a lot of you guys play strategy games, you've got a good brain in your head. But a lot of people have short attention spans when they've got your Call of Duty era that you're at now. And to draw people in and grow the channel, I need to cater more to a little bit of that sort of era, unfortunately. For parts of it. And RPGs also can be a bit grindy. And I haven't really got the time on a series where I can grind it out. So if I was going to do that, I'd do a playthrough of Final Fantasy X. Probably the best Final Fantasy they've ever made. I would play that game over and over. I love that game. It's fantastic. But there are parts in it where you will have to grind. And the grinding parts are quite dull, quite boring. When if it was something you had to watch. When doing the big bosses and following the story, that's great. Hot take on that Final Fantasy one? It's just my opinion, buddy, that's all. Because for me it'd be 10, then 7, then probably 8, and then Zodiac Age. It's just obviously 7's had a lot of smoke blowing up its arse, because it's got a remake of the game now in modernised graphics, and then it's also got, I think, 2 films made out of the game as well. You've got Advent Children and that other one, and it's just, it's a lot. 7's good, but I think 10 is the better game. And probably the better story. But the thing is, it's not a massive amount. It's not by a massive amount. It's like, if this is 10, this is 7. Where 8 is down here. And Zodiac Age is down here even still. So there's a bigger gap between Zodiac Age and 8. And between 8 and 7. Where 7 and 10 are very, very close. I enjoyed 8 and 10 better. I didn't enjoy 8 better than 7. But I definitely enjoyed 10 better than it. But 8 was a good game. The only thing that put me off with 8 was how you got paid by your seed ranking system, and the main character's name being called Squall. So why the fuck is it called Squall? You couldn't give him a decent fucking name. You got Cloud and Tidus in 7 and 10. And then you've got Vaughn in Zodiac Age, and bear in mind he's a little kid as well. I don't think having a kid as a main character is ever a good idea. I know they sometimes target it at a more kiddie demographic, but if anyone from Square Enix ever sees this, don't make your main character a child or a teenager, ever. Always make it an adult man or woman. You know, make it so you know that it's going to be an adult topic, and probably don't add any kids to the party at all. You like, look why is 7 and 10 so successful. 7 and 10 are successful because they don't have any kids in the party. In 7, you've got Cloud, you've got Tifa, you've got Barrett, you've got Aerith, you've got Red, you've got Vincent. I think that's it.
Oh, have you seen people are using dance mats in Helldivers 2 to do the stratagems?
Oh my god. And then in 10 you've got Tidus, Riku. Riku's probably the most immature of the group, but she's still a teenager. You've got Yuna, Lulu, Waka, Kimari, Auron. Auron was my favourite. But they're the ones you've got for those. You don't need any kids in the party. You're talking about people who are hardcore warriors, and they're going to actually kill entities, maybe even people. You don't want children involved in that. It's not a good idea. And it's certainly not your main character. The thing is, obviously, as well, these companies must have a metric of seeing what sales they've made on those games. So they must know how good they are. So why not just copy off that success? But like, right, make a party of this many people, so many guys, so many girls, maybe some things that aren't even fucking human, like Red, but keep them all at like similar sort of age like that. Don't make any fucking young ass people, like really stupidly young, or even really stupidly old, unless it's gonna be like some sort of wizard like Gandalf. You know, keep them in that certain ballpark, but you don't want young kids involved in fucking like a war type fighting game. It's like, no, get them the fuck out of there. so cringe. What were you saying, buddy? Overlord?
What?
Your thing you were just saying then.
Oh, about the dance mat?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's modders using those Dance Dance Revolution mats to do the stratagems for Helldivers.
Fucking Christ.
It was only a matter of time.
The other thing that I've seen lately that's disturbing, and this is yet another thing to show you how Twitch is going to a bad place. Have any of you guys seen these streams lately where girls are streaming a game and it's like green screened onto their pants or green screened onto their top? And you can see the game playing on their pants or their top. In some way, I don't know exactly how it works. And it's like, what is happening? I don't get it. I really don't. Super bizarre. Right, well, it's well past 5 anyway. I had to delete the other VOD, unfortunately, because there's a problem with it when I tried to launch this one up. So I had to delete it to start this one up. But this one will be left up there for you guys. And I've added it to its playlist already. And I will catch you guys on Friday for some Lethal Company. And then on Sunday for some Helldivers 2. And then on Wednesday we'll do the second episode of Game Talk. And we'll see where things go from there. But I'm going to try and get a list of topics for next Wednesday. So we can discuss what the fuck ever. But take care of yourselves. Overlord, thank you for joining me. Shrey, thank you for being here, keeping me sane. Kyle, if you're still there, buddy, thank you too for popping by. And I will hopefully catch you guys on Friday. Take care, everyone. And I will see you in the next episode of Game Talk. You have a good one.